the next thing I'm going to talk about is the pennycress breeding program. As with any breeding program, the first thing you need to do is set the objectives. What are we going to breed for? On pennycress, the objective was set for early maturity time. We wanted to make sure if this double cropping system is going to work, we've got to assure farmers we're going to be out of the field by mid-May. Okay, if we go to June 1st, okay, that's about pushing it, but we really have got to be out of the field at that time. And so the hope here is to look at varieties that have been collected around the country and around the world, essentially, to look for different flowering times, different oil constituents, and different oil quantities that are accumulated in the seed. And so this is what pennycress looks like. This is field pennycress. It's predominantly a weed in most commercial production fields. It likes fairly disturbed areas, but is not very competitive. It's easily controlled. It produces a fairly flat seed pod. It has about 14 seeds in each seed pod. Again, it grows throughout the winter months, and then it's typically flowering early April, where it'll be in full bloom by May, and you're harvesting by mid-May or so. And so the lines that we're looking at here, there happens to be two right here. One's called Patton, one's called Beecher. These came out of Peoria County, Illinois. They were collected on local farmers' fields. This is what I would call winter types. They stayed in a rosette form, in this rosette type. The types that you see out here are still the winter types. These were lines that shouldn't be flowering right now. They should stay in their rosette stage until they get a cold period to induce the flowering, and then in the spring it would start bolting. Because these were transplanted out here, they were sort of tricked into it. The blank ones, the ones that don't have signs, were the spring lines. The minute I planted it, they germinated, they grew, they flowered, and they are done. They actually don't even produce a rosette. They go immediately to floral formation, and the plants typically look like these guys. They're very spindly. They have very few basal leaves, these rosette leaves. They have very few of those, and they'll go right into flowering immediately. Typically, those wouldn't finish up until late June, early July, if they were planted in early spring. So this was the variety trial. We had 22 lines this year here. Most of these were we've got some from Illinois, Montana, North Dakota, out of Ithaca, New York, some from Saskatchewan, Canada, Ames, North Dakota. And here we're simply, again, looking for those interesting traits, something that's different. A few of the lines were quite unique. This one in particular, out of New York, a very vigorous rosette. It was not blooming, but a few of the plants have started to bloom. Here, if I was doing selections, I would pick a couple of lines that have not come into blooming and look at these for winter types. Insects, I haven't seen too many. Aphids could be an issue. If you planted this early, obviously you wouldn't plant this early, but aphids you would need to control so they don't destroy the floral tissue.
You see this come out of Peoria County?
This is the Patton line. This is out of Peoria near Hannah City, I believe, and this is also out of Peoria County. Both these lines. And they are different. The seed color is different, plant habit is different, and they're right next to each other. And so that even sparked it. We have a sideline little project, and this year, Amy and I, my graduate student, we just thought, okay, what kind of variation would you expect to see in a weed species? So we went to 10 different sites in McDonough County and visited farmers' fields and collected 10 fields within the county. And we're going to look at total oil constituents, and to see what type of variation we would expect to see in such a narrow area. We see a lot of variation. That's sort of good news for a breeding program. But if it's all identical, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Are these the ones that they actually harvested over around Peoria?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
So these would be annuals, and these are native to America?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm not introducing a new species, no.
Are they photoperiod induced?
It depends on the line. The spring versus the winter. The winter line should not start.
So these actually cultivated varieties are just things you picked out?
These are wild. Nothing is a cultivated variety.
So
There's no pennycress breeders.
Okay.
I guess I'd be the first pennycress breeder. No, this is a roadside weed.
Okay. You just made the name, or how did you determine?
How I got these seeds were I called on a lot of weed scientists always use this in their weed gardens. And so I called on favors to a lot of weed scientist friends saying, hey, do you put out a demonstration of weed seeds? yes, if you do, can you please send me some seed? And that's essentially what I did. And so they all sent me sample seed that they had collected from their particular farmer's field. And they said, oh, well, I need to know the specifics of exactly where you harvest. And they'll say, oh, I collected it off the Patton farm. And that's how I put the title Patton on it. Or Beecher or Post or however. It's whatever farm it came off.
Okay.